conference with a theme on the globalization of Ayurveda. And I'd like to suggest that, if I may, with great respect, that the Planning Commission also consider the international face of Ayurveda. I mentioned to you, Madam, in our discussion, my colleagues and I at Oxford University had produced the World Health Organization Global Atlas of Traditional, Complementary and Alternative Medicine. And if I may, I'd like to show you a few maps from this in the spirit that a picture is worth 1,000 words. On the screen here, this is the Global Atlas. It's a 2-volume Global Atlas that we produced, came out last year from the World Health Organization. First ever attempt to produce a bird's eye view of what's happening in this sector around the world. 6 collaborating teams through the WHO offices in each region of the world. And not a perfect picture because the data is not perfect, but a necessary beginning that hopefully we can refine in the times ahead. This is the first ever bird's eye view of the extent of the use of herbal and traditional medicine around the world. And the very light green or goldy color shows low level of use or inadequate data, but then from the medium green to the dark green, that's medium to high use. And what you can see, madam, is this is very much a green world. There's nothing alternative about this. This is mainstream everywhere around the world. We also looked at some of the main modalities, and we had data on acupuncture. If you look to the right, to China, obviously this is very high use, but you can see that a system that only started to be globalized when President Nixon hurt his back when he went to China, and Chairman Mao presented him with an acupuncturist. To his amazement, his back improved. That acupuncturist accompanied him back to Washington to work with the National Institutes of Health. There began the globalization of Ayurveda, of acupuncture. And you can see this map shows acupuncture is now a world health practice. We look at the utilization of chiropractic. Same thing, this American system that derived from bone setting, American system, old rural traditions of bone setting, now systematized as chiropractic, a world health system. If we look at how this popular trend of use is turning into official recognition, governments are picking up on this. Here, if we look at the yellow, we can see legal recognition of chiropractors, again beginning to happen around the world. If we look at the legal recognition of Chinese medicine, again you can see not as much recognition as use, but still quite a lot of recognition through those yellow areas globally. This is government licensure of acupuncturists and practitioners of traditional Chinese medicine. And when we look at global recognition of Ayurveda, it's a different story. A lot less, huh? Let me go back again. Chinese medicine, Ayurveda. Chinese medicine, Ayurveda. Now that is a sad story, and that is why the globalization of Ayurveda must be on the 11th plan as the international face, because this is trade for India, this is foreign exchange, this is cultural recognition, this is science and science partnerships that need to be developed. You've outlined such an elaborate and detailed and valuable plan for India. I don't wish to give you a headache with a whole new set of responsibilities, but I think that there is a need for an international policy committee to address this area. Just to indicate, there's a meeting next month, I mentioned this morning, in Shanghai, of World Health Organization collaborating centers on traditional medicine. Shanghai next month. At that, from Asia, there will be 7 WHO collaborating centers on traditional Chinese medicine. One of those will be also from Australia, also on Chinese medicine, WHO collaborating centers, 8 centers on traditional Chinese medicine. There will be 2 from South Korea, 1 from North Korea. The Korean medical systems come from Chinese medicine. There will be 1 from Vietnam. The Vietnamese medical system comes purely from Chinese medicine. There will be 2 from Japan. The Japanese medical system is called Kampo. Kampo translates from Japanese as Chinese. 2 collaborating centers on Kampo medicine or Chinese medicine from Japan. There are no WHO collaborating centers on any of the ISMs, including Ayurveda. Why is this? And this, I think, is coming back to the globalization of Ayurveda. China has paid for and hosted WHO meetings in China. They have a budget for this. In the Department of Traditional Chinese Medicine in Beijing, which is as big as a ministry anywhere else, they have 10 sub-departments. One of those departments is an international department. Another of those departments is a trade department. They are very externally oriented, very proactive, not reactive. They see this as a business opportunity, and it is. They hold meetings to develop WHO guidelines on acupuncture. There are no WHO guidelines on Abhyanga. There are WHO guidelines and monographs on Chinese herbs. There are no WHO monographs on Ayurvedic herbs. Does this matter? Yes. It matters because if a country, as you saw, wants to license a traditional medical system, they say, oh, there are WHO guidelines, we'll follow those. That's why that map is so yellow for acupuncture. When they say, when our colleagues here, sitting in the audience, allopathic doctors, you can see them, madam, from other countries, practicing Ayurveda, when they want to practice, the government says, sorry, you can't recommend those herbs, they're not approved. Sorry, you can't cite that research, we don't recognize it. Sorry, you can't make any claims, or we'll strike you off the roll of medical practitioners because this system is not official. These are the barriers these good doctors in the audience are facing because India has yet to be proactive about the globalization of Ayurveda as China has been about the globalization of Chinese medicine. I would suggest in closing that there should be an international agenda for the globalization of Ayurveda to identify these key blockages to the full globalization of Ayurveda, to identify action to overcome the obstacles to this globalization, and that this should be done through an international working group which is established as part of the 11th plan, which would not just work with the Ministry of Health, but which would include trade. Because these barriers that the doctors and the companies are facing are effectively non-tariff barriers to Ayurvedic trade, to trade for India. They are blocking Indian trade. And they should be dealt with by a trade ministry and by the foreign ministry, by the culture ministry, by the science ministry to build partnerships. And by, as you said also, Ayurvedic organizations and NGOs, grassroots organizations. So there is a comprehensive action plan to fulfill the globalization goals for Ayurveda. I'm sorry I've taken more than my 4 minutes, but I feel this is an important message. Thank you very much.